And welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors meeting for March 15th. This section is interviews for boards and commissions, and our first interview is with Mr. James Sachs for the Historic Commission. Welcome, Mr. Sachs. Thank you for volunteering.
Well, thank you very much for having me here.
We appreciate it. The Historical Commission Liaison, I think that's Mr. Lewis. Is it not?
That is me.
Would you start the questioning, please?
So licenseadvisor.com.
Yes,
I
you went to the website. Huh?
yeah.
That takes a lot of explanation.
So you specialize in helping companies license.
Our clients are consumer products manufacturers and retailers.
Okay.
And the only way I can really describe that, I have to describe it to you, explain it to you. So we have a client out in Reading, which is the 5th largest chocolate company in the country, RM Palmer.
Okay.
And we consult for them. And so what happens is they come to me and they said, what do you have that's interesting? And so over the past year, I was able to secure Frosty the Snowman, National Lampoon Christmas Vacation, Bachelor, Bachelorette, and SpongeBob for them. What I do is, it's like from the sublime to the ridiculous. Right. What I do is I know the studios, I know all the people at the studios and all the people in the licensing industry. So I give them a call and I simply say, I have a great client. Is this category available? And if they say yes, then we write all the proposals, we negotiate the deals, and they go off and sell product and we get paid.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you work with Crayola at all? And
I've worked with Crayola.
Yeah, because they do a lot of licensing.
They do a lot. I was a Crayola licensee.
Okay.
I was in manufacturing.
Would you don't mind me?
Well, no,
you're not allowed to tell me.
No, I can tell you. We go way back. My family's business was one of the last family-owned toy companies in the United States. And in the mid-60s, my father took it into housewares. So we were manufacturing waste baskets, canister sets, decorative tins, and we had the Crayola license for waste baskets.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Amazing business. And they're owned by Hallmark now. So it's fascinating. Yep. So as it relates to the Historic Commission, although all of this is interesting because
it's history.
Well, it is history, and toy history is actually interesting too. A lot of people don't realize that. What about Lower Makefield history has got you excited? They want to be on the Historical Commission?
Well, I'm from Yardley.
You're where?
I grew up in Yardley.
Okay.
I grew up in Lower Makefield. If you know where Ralph Reedman lived on Yardley Road, you know where he lived? We lived right down the street from
there. Yeah.
And that's where I grew up. But I've always been interested in the history of Yardley. And when people would come from out of town, I take them on tours. And I take them up to Washington's Crossing and, explain everything. And I just have an interest in it, particularly in Civil War. But I've always been interested in the history of the township and the borough.
One last note before I let you go. So I take people to Washington's Crossing all the time. And the best tour I ever received was a kid. I would say kid. He was in his 20s. He was from the UK. So he had this intense British accent. But he gave an amazing tour.
Really?
Fascinating. Yeah.
Well, I tell you an interesting, I don't know if you know this, but when they first started doing the crossings, the reenactments, they were doing them and they were not really well coordinated. And one time when they were doing it, a bunch of Native Americans came around the island in canoes while they were crossing the Delaware. And then another time when they were crossing, on the other side of the river, out of the woods come a bunch of British soldiers and Hessians. And at that point, they decided, I think we better put patrol boats on the river and we better get our act together. A lot of funny stuff went on.
Who would decide to be a Hessian or a British soldier and attack?
Who wants to be right? Exactly. Who wants to do that?
Who's going to be on the wrong side?
Well, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. All right. I'll yield my time.
Thanks. James?
I don't have anything to add to that, but thank you so much for
good stories.
For great stories. Thanks for coming out, and we appreciate
absolutely. Absolutely.
Volunteering your time.
If absolutely, give me, let me know what you'd like to do. I think it would be interesting. And, maybe I can give something back to the township.
Oh, it's great. Oh, we got more to go. We got 5 supervisors.
Oh.
Dan, do you have any questions? You're stuck here until you.
All right, no problem.
I was letting you off the hook.
You're gonna become you're gonna.
We'll lock the door.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Fascinating stuff. And I'm wondering which ones are the sublime and which ones are
Well,
ridiculous.
I made you guys look good.
Yeah, I understand. It's a rhetorical question. I'm wondering what I was the liaison on the Historic Commission for a couple of years in a row, and they have a nice group of folks that are really interested in history. Some of them are actual historians and archaeologists.
Right.
And they all have different ideas for what they'd like to do as part of the Historic Commission. So I'm wondering if you have any specific ideas that you think could enhance the Historic Commission or enhance the experience of history in Lower Makefield.
I wish I could, but I don't know what this is all about. I am for preservation.
Mhm.
I'm absolutely for that. And I do see what's going on, around the township. And I grew up here. When I grew up here, it was all farmland and horse country. And it was absolutely beautiful. We didn't have all the developments. So anything that has to do with preservation, I'm for. And that's about all I can tell you right now until I get into it and learn, what this is really all about.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right?
Suzanne?
Yeah, I feel like I might know you from my travels on the train to New York City.
Well, that's a possibility.
Yeah, so thank you, as everyone else has said. I do have a kind of curveball to throw at you. We're so excited that you volunteered, but apparently this committee has become like the cause celeb, and we have a lot of interest in it.
Mhm.
Would you also be interested to be a part of the Historic Architectural Review Board, HARB? They are the entity that helps, like, when there are things going on, let's say in the historic district near McCaffrey's, like to make sure that that development looks in keeping with certain characters,
Right.
paint colors,
Right.
stuff like that. Is that also of interest to you?
That probably would not interest me.
Okay,
No,
all right, fair enough.
it's a bit too sterile for me.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
James, thank
All
you for
right.
coming.
Thanks an awful lot,
From us,
guys.
sir. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
So we have Kathy on. Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Hello, Kathy.
Hi,
Thanks
how
for volunteering.
Thank
and
you.
Appearing before us. I'm going to always start off with the liaison for the committee. So I'm going to start off with Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis?
Sure. So Kathy, tell me what got you interested in the Historical Commission?
So I met with the chair and Thomas a few weeks ago after he had posted on Facebook. So I was able to get kind of a sense of what y'all do. And kind of where I overlap. I'm from New Jersey originally. I was in California for 30 years. Now I'm in Pennsylvania. But for years I've been working on my own genealogy. So like the historical research stuff, like when I was talking to them about it, really just excited like my nerd parts. Like when they told me that you have a basement full of documents that are like something needs to be done with, I was like, that actually sounds exciting to me. I mean, I know a lot of people would be like, oh no, all that, but to sort it out, to find the history, after living in California for such a long time, there's just, and coming back here and seeing all the history from like 1600s and stuff, which is not that, not California history, like it's just really exciting. I've tracked some of my own ancestors back to like Revolutionary War times and beyond. And it's, it fascinates me.
Where in California were you?
Bay Area.
Bay Area? Okay. Where in the Bay Area?
El Cerrito, which is East Bay. So it's.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people have never heard of it. So.
Yeah. So, interesting. You mentioned genealogy. We actually have descendants of famous people from revolutionary times that are frequent flyers around here that come to meetings and things like that. So yeah, it's fascinating. Sort of the history of some of the folks that that were once around here.
Right.
And so sometimes finding those folks and telling their stories is part of bringing that to life in a lot of way, as well as sort of restoration and some of the other stuff. So it's helpful and interesting. I don't want to take up all the time, so I'll pass the baton.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much for throwing your name in the hat for the this commission. Is there any other interest that you have besides the historical part of it?
Well, one of the things when I was talking to the guys on the commission, where I think my kind of skill set and career could fit in is, I'm a trained social worker. And, part of what I've done, I mean, now I'm working as a therapist, but part of what I did before was administrative. So like, they talked about like grant writing, I mean, I know there's a lot going on with Patterson Farm, and I know people have a lot of great ideas. And I also know that money is an issue. So it feels like that's something I could support them with. Also, like that's something for my skill set. I mean, the genealogy, there's some skills there, but so that also interests me. I know that they also said they were working on a cemetery restoration. And again, with all the genealogy, I can't tell you how many times when I'd come back to visit my parents from California, I would drag them to like all these cemeteries all over New Jersey, like looking for people. So, I actually haven't gotten over to the cemetery on Main Street yet, but I've been wanting to go for forever because I was like, oh my God, that's from, some stuff is so old there. So, I would love to kind of support that getting rehabbed.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Hey, Kathy, how you doing?
Good,
Nice
thanks.
to see you. Yeah, I think your background, especially when we talk about grant writing and finding money for stuff, that's always something we're looking for, right? We have great ideas, but great ideas often cost money, and we always have to
Right.
figure out ways to do that. So I love hearing about those skill sets. And, I'm curious with your background, how else we could leverage your background, social worker and organizing the various groups and whatnot, to see how we couldn't mesh that with some of the stuff that the Historic Commission is planning on doing. But otherwise, I won't take up too much time, so Suzanne can ask you some questions. But I just want to say thank you for coming out, and I look forward to working with you here.
Thank you.
Kathy, I think I'm remembering that like one of the first things you did when you came back was come to one of the styrofoam events and bring your recyclables. So we're pleased to have you back. And
Oh yeah, my mom gets this food delivery thing and it makes me insane. So I actually go to New Jersey, pick it up and dump it here. I'm there every time.
Yeah. So
I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry.
Well, who knows? We're not really doing the genealogy of recyclables. Anything that doesn't go in the landfill is a win.
I'm very big on things not going into the landfill. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And thank you for tonight. I did want to say what I said to the person we just interviewed before you. We have one more again. This committee is wildly popular right now.
Yeah, I heard.
And that's great, but we have other committees too. And one of them is the Historic Architectural Review Board, which I think you could still get your nerd on. I think you could still help the commission with papers in the basement, but maybe there's a role where you would help in terms of when there's development in certain parts of the township that has to meet historical code. That committee is really active in making sure that the rules are known and, taken into account. And it can get from stuff as detailed as paint, colors, and lighting and whatnot. So just my way of saying, if you have interest in anything else, in case this doesn't come together, and again, I'm sure they'll still help you into the basement and work on stuff.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Because I thought with that, you would probably need more of an architecture or building, I mean, I didn't know if my skill set would match for some of these other places.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, not a lot of historical architects out there.
Yeah, okay, fair.
So it's kind of a learn as you go. There's some great people on the committee who would be great people to work with, but the biggest thing is the passion. If you have the interest and the passion to volunteer, then we can find a place to make it work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. There's a lot of people that want to be on the Historical Commission all of a sudden.
I think it was that Facebook post.
It could be. So it's going to take us a little time to figure out what the story will be. If you are interested in the HARB as well as the Historical Commission, let us know. You don't have to
Okay.
tell us today, but you can let us know. Because it basically concerns with Edgewood Village. And there's a lot of old development that might become redevelopment in the next few years,
Mhm.
plus current development that needs to fit the character that we all want to see.
Right.
So if that's
no,
something that would
understood.
interest you, there is an opening for a general member of the community in the
Okay.
heart. So just putting it out there.
Okay,
So it would make our job a little easier. If
right.
you decided that that's something that you would be interested in as well. And I
Okay.
thank you for volunteering. We really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you all for taking the time to speak with me.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
You
Kathy.
too.
We have Jeffrey on up there. Boy, it's like clockwork. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hello.
Thank you for volunteering to be a candidate for the Historical Commission. I say candidate because we have like 1,000 members of the community that want to be on this committee all of a sudden. And
Success of social media.
success of social media, that's what I understand. So I will start as usual with our supervisor liaison, Supervisor Lewis.
What prompted your interest? I guess I take it the social media posting brought you in, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, the social media posting sparked my interest. I've always had a love of history. I actually have a degree in history from Rutgers University that I did nothing with as a career. But as a pastime, I've always spent a lot of time researching, reading podcasts, exploring historic sites. It's a passion topic of mine, and when I saw an opportunity to do something along those lines, it kind of spoke to me. So,
Is there a period of history that you research more than other periods?
So as far as research, yeah, it
Or
was
just
mostly
engagement,
American history on the east cities and the East Coast was my specialty in college. I did a lot of work on 1700s through late 1800s in urban environments. The age of canals, the age of trains, all that kind of fun stuff.
Right. Which now I'm curious, which did you have a particular cities you were focusing on in terms of urban areas?
The one I spent the most time on was, of course, the seat of Rutgers University. I did a lot of time on New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Okay.
Of course, the canals and trains and the growth and Johnson and Johnson coming in and all that stuff. That was the focus because it made my professor happy.
And New Brunswick is an interesting, and there is a lot of history there and things that have happened there. So yeah, no, definitely. It's excellent. Thanks for your interest on that. I don't want to take up too much of the time to yield over to other supervisors.
Supervisor McCartney.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your interest, Jeff. So besides the historical piece of it, what other aspects can you bring from a strategic standpoint to the Historical Commission? Because obviously there's a Facebook post out there that's asking a lot of people to apply for this commission.
Understood.
So yeah, what other key strategic formulas can you bring to the commission that you think could be helpful to the township?
Sure. So look, I've been a chronic volunteer for my entire professional career. I've done a lot of things in my profession, but I've done a lot of things in my community. I spent 12 years as a scoutmaster in West Windsor, New Jersey, before I moved to Makefield about 2 years ago. I've done a lot of community involvement, soccer coaching for my kids' teams, etc. What I like to do is give back, and I like to share the knowledge I have to give back and find places where what I have to offer is of value to those who need it. So giving back to my local community with what my volunteer time and energy is there. I got to tell you, I don't even know how many Eagle projects I supported as a Scoutmaster, or in the 10 years after I was a Scoutmaster supporting kids as an Eagle coach to get through their Scoutmaster projects. I understood from some of the people I spoke to from the Historical Commission prior that there's a lot of Eagle Scout projects for the cleanups of the cemeteries and things like that. And, liaisoning with other community groups to do some of the projects is something I also think is something where I could add value.
Thank you so much.
Supervisor Grenier.
Sure. Hi, Jeffrey. Like everyone else, I'll say thank you for your interest. I'm curious if in your study of New Jersey train history, if you've ever come across the name Paul Schopp. He's a New Jersey historian that lives in, or at least former coworker. He lived in Riverton, New Jersey, and has published books on trains in New Jersey. So if you haven't had a chance, highly recommend looking him up.
I've just jotted that down. Thank you.
Yeah, no, phenomenal stuff. That being said, obviously you have a background in history. You have great interest in it. I'm curious if you have, just since you've been here and have seen what the Historic Commission does and what they want to do, if you have any ideas relative to how you might apply your interest and background to further enhance the work that the Historic District is doing. I mean, the Historic Commission, I'm sorry.
Sure. In my conversations with them, we talked a bit about the projects down by there's a couple of the older homes down by the Edgewood Cafe that are on the list that need to have something done with them. We talked about that a bit. One of the things I brought up is I love hiking at 5 Mile Woods, and there's a set of old foundations back there. And I did some research and found someone wrote a book on 5 Mile Woods. And of course I got it and read it, and it's original settlers, believed to be one of the original homesteads from one of the Penn Grant era. And I asked them about it, and they said, we don't know about that. I said, wasn't 5 Mile Woods part of the owned by the township? And so things like that, doing the historical research to find out where things are, what the history was. I'm happy to hit the books of the microfiche. Microfiche, God, I'm definitely aging myself. I'm mentioning microfiche. But going into finding the details, doing the research online or going to libraries and county libraries to dig out the records. I love to do that stuff, to find those little facts that, people have lost and then bring it back to light. And at the end of the day, the reason I love history is it's a story, and it's a story if you don't tell it and you don't tell it with the details, it gets lost. And of course, we all need to learn from history so we don't repeat the mistakes, but also revel in the things that were successful. And, finding that local history and then finding out ways to share it, teach it, turn it to mediums that can be stored, YouTube videos, whatever else, to make sure other people have an opportunity to learn from what you've gathered, teach the local kids in the schools about the history of the town they live in. All those things come together where you have to do the research, you have to do the legwork. And as I mentioned to the people that interviewed me from the Historical Commission, I said, well, my youngest is graduating college in May. I'm just about to be full empty nest, and I got time in the evenings. I'm working fully from home now with my company. And that means in evenings, I've got time to fill. And, it's better than catching up on Netflix to do something fun like this. So
I'm inspired by that response.
Fantastic. Supervisor Blondie, you want to continue the questioning?
No, I just want to say I applaud you because you like to read historic fiction and historic books. I have given up on historic fiction because oftentimes I'm not quite sure what's real and what's fiction. And then I find myself repeating stuff that is not true. So good for you.
You can read the Last Kingdom series, the one that was done on Netflix recently, because that's a fictional character woven through actual historic events perfectly because the author researches intensively. So that's a great one. Just remember, Uther, whatever his name is the false character, but all the kings and all the queens and all the stuff that happens is all actually based on historical records.
So maybe that's what I need, a list of stuff that is written that way and not that mingles and I'm like, huh.
If I have a chance to talk to you again or find your contact information, I'll send it to the author, because everything he writes, he does years of research before he writes the story, but then he always weaves a fictional character through the story. So he's Last Kingdom.
Thank you for volunteering, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will ask you a question that we've asked every other candidate. Because of the plethora of applicants for this committee, we have more applicants than we have open spaces. So to make our job possibly a little easier, we do have a vacancy on the Historical Architectural Review Board, which is responsible for keeping the character of Edgewood's Village, that historic character from the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. It does not look much like it did 300 years ago. However, we try to keep things in a certain character. The harbor is responsible for that. And I think in the ensuing years, there's probably going to be a lot of redevelopment so we can maybe get back to those days. So the general member of the community is required to be on that board. So of course, we're looking for that member. So the question is, would you be interested in such a position on the HARB? I
I certainly would. Yeah, it sounds like you need just as much research to do that work. You need to find volunteerism and, while I'm not anywhere close to an expert in architecture at all, I know I can do research on what was architecturally appropriate at a certain time, and we can go look and see what is there and what's been changed since then. I did my house in New Jersey before I moved to Lower Makefield, was an 1850s farmhouse. And I know a lot about how that was built because I was fixing that thing all the time. So sure. And actually my older sister who just moved to New Orleans was on a similar board in Maplewood, New Jersey. And she could probably give me some tips on how that stuff worked. So I'd be happy to volunteer in that capacity if that was needed.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll let you know.
Great. Thanks very much for the time and look forward to hearing from you.
Take care.
Cheers.
Does anyone need a break? Let's take a 2-minute recess and then we'll get started with the business part of the meeting. Welcome back. We are now at the business section of our Board of Supervisors meeting. I will call it to order and let us rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take the roll. Supervisor Lewis,
Present.
Supervisor McCartney,
Present.
Supervisor Granier,
Here.
Supervisor Blondie.
Here,
I am here. We are here. We have a quorum and we can continue. We will go to item 4, community announcements. Is there anyone online or in the room that has a public announcement to give? Hearing none, I will read a few. Lower Makefield Township will be holding a styrofoam and recycling event on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, from 10 a.m. to noon outside the Township Building, 1100 Edgewood Road. We are collecting clean white styrofoam, natural and synthetic corks, clean pill bottles with tops, and household batteries. I also would like to give a shout out to the Pennsbury Sea Falcons. They had a community cleanup of the ball fields in Lower Makefield and the Falls Township. They, in a matter of a few weeks, got 100 volunteers, 18 in Lower Make and 80 in Falls Township. I guess Lower Make's much cleaner, so I won't get into that. And they had a great success. Dozens of trash bags were filled, and this was part of their Make a Splash regional competition. And I give them a lot of luck, and I wish them the best of success.
Fred, thanks so much. I was going to ask Monica to talk about that under Parks and Rec. I think that was a great activity, and those young people, really very impressive.
Amazing students, amazing members of the community. It's one of the reasons why I'm proud to be a member of Lower Makefield. What item 5? Consider the approval of minutes.
Yeah,
You may.
one thing.
You may.
I just wanted, for members of the board that probably don't know this, I want to say a big thanks to Chief Coluzzi here for over the weekend. He spent the time with a Boy Scout group, BSA Venturing Crew 6393. They were working a Scout Merit Badge session related to just getting to know public officials in Lower Makefield. They had a nice Q&A session, and the response was overwhelming. They were, I believe, mesmerized and captivated were the
Well, glad to
what I
hear.
heard.
Glad to hear it. It was a great group. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll go to item 5, consider the approval of minutes for March 1st meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor McCartney, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval, say aye and raise your hand.
Hi,
Ayes have it 5-0. Go to item 6, Treasurer's Report. Mr. McCartney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the December 2022 interfund transfers in the amount of $2,294,821.06.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McCartney, seconded by Mr. Grenier. Any discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it 5-0.
And
Have
I
a
have a
5-0.
second one, make a motion for the January 2023 payroll and interfund transfers in the amount of $860,997.69.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McCartney, seconded by Mr. Grenier for the warrant list from February 21st and March 6th. Any discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it
Aye.
5-0. Item 7. We have a presentation.
Did you get the warrant list?
Yeah,
I
Mr.
did.
Chair,
You-
yeah.
I think
a
you
few
skipped over the warrants.
I only have A and B. Do we have the warrant? We have-
Well, yeah, the first two were the 2022 and 2023
I don't have
interfund
another.
transfers.
Okay,
Fred, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
think
right
you
around
said the
that.
right thing. I think James gave the number for one thing. January 2023 payroll interfund transfers, and you said B.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought we did. Okay. Jill, while you're setting up, item A has been passed 5-0. Item B, consider approval of the warrant list for February 21st and March 6th. Did you make that motion?
I have not. I will now,
Let's do
though.
that.
I think you probably are looking at an updated PDF and we have an older hard copy in front of us.
Oh, okay,
See if I can't get ahead and see if we're missing.
okay.
So is there one more motion or are we done?
No, it's six B is. 6B is still pending.
6B is still pending.
6B is the warrant list.
Yes.
Yes.
For the
21st and March 6th.
for 21st and March 6th in the amount of, I'd like to make a motion for the warrant list for the 21st of February and the 6th of March in the amount of $2,183 and $81.56.
Second,
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the warrant list from February 21st and March 6th, made by Supervisor McCartney, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
aye.
Opposed, no. Approved 5-0. So just to make for the record, the approval of the interfund transfers for December 2022 and 2023 has been passed.
Correct.
And now the warrant list for February 21st and March 6th have been passed.
Correct.
Both 5-0.
Correct.
Okay, now item 7, electronic media presentation. It's Jill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. On behalf of the Electronic Media Advisory Council, or EMAC, we're so pleased to be here to make our official recommendation for relaunching the township's website. In June, the current website will be 6 years old. We used to say that 1 human year equals 7 internet or technology years like dog years, but now people are saying a technology year is more like 20 human years, which would make the website almost 120 years old, which was very concerning to our community. So that's why we're here. So Dave Kelleher and I will cover three things tonight. One is a recommendation for a new development company. Second is goals and priorities that EMAC has outlined for the new website. And the third is some research we've done about the idea of having a township app after the new website is relaunched. We also have 2 EMAC members listening in, Fred Young and Ann Schreiber, and I believe Josh Waldorf is on his way. So thanks to the committee for all their hard work on this front. And I also just wanted to let the board know that we're thrilled that we're working in concert with township staff on these recommendations and assessing their needs and perspectives. We held a working session recently where we had our committee, Dave, the new township manager, Monica and Jim all at around one table for the first time ever. So thank you to Dave for reaching out and initiating that. It's very much appreciated. And, you know, when we all put our heads together in that way, we best serve the community. So EMAC was very involved in that website relaunch in 2017. It was a major overhaul of the design, site architecture, and content. We also went through an RFP process to recommend a development company. And because we went through all of that experience last time, we had a good idea of what we were looking for this time in a developer. And we also know the local landscape of all the different web development companies in the area and so forth. So the committee voted to recommend Catapult Web as the development company. They were in line with a lot of our preferences and priorities. And actually Dave Kelleher was the one who brought that company to the table. He discovered them through his video work with some other municipalities and came across them because they launched and redesigned several websites for neighboring townships like Falls Township and the other ones mentioned here. Their content management system is much more user-friendly than the current WordPress platform. Now it's called Umbraco. They have developed a whole municipal platform, especially for municipalities, and currently they manage more than 20 municipal websites. Their content management system is much more user-friendly. It's much easier to update. You don't need a whole lot of technical expertise. It's based on a series of templates that could be customized. And they've also developed some municipal specific tools for managing high demand areas of the website, such as meeting minutes and agendas and news alerts and so forth. The pricing, as you'll see in a minute, is really reasonable, and they offer training and ongoing support. So the big news here is that the cost of the service is $2,400 annually with the first payment after the launch. That is amazing. And the reason they're able to offer that pricing is because it's a shared platform. Municipal is a shared platform, and improvements, upgrades, maintenance, and so forth are applied to all clients at once. The Umbraco CMS platform is also an open source platform, which means that doesn't cost anything for them to use it. They base their platform and so forth off of development from that open source software. That includes everything. It includes content migration, hosting, support, training before the launch happens and as needed afterwards. And then there's a brief description there of the process they have for relaunching the site. 5 steps basically. In summary, you start with a content outline. You have a meeting with township staff. You kind of create an existing, you create an agreed upon content outline based on the existing content. You decide what content you're going to keep, what content needs updating, which content needs to go. From there, they work on the design from templates that the staff chooses, and they personalize them. And then they will start migrating the content over to the new platform. And all the while, you'll be given a URL to monitor the development and progress remotely and in real time. So that's a plus. And then once the website is complete, but before it launches, they will hold a training session with any staff that will be involved with updating the site. And again, a lot of things that this company is offering was kind of in line with the priorities and goals that we discussed as a group. And that's kind of outlined here. Easier navigation and an updated design. Again, the design is mobile friendly. It's much easier to update on the back end. Nice, clean designs, a better calendar, just more streamlined than what we have now. And keep in mind it's going to be a little bit of a project to decide what content to migrate over to the new site. But I wanted to just show you this. This is over the past year. These are the most viewed pages on lmt.org. And that's a little bit hard to see, but in a nutshell, the top 5 were the Parks and Recs main page, the register and request all the forms main page, the Board of Supervisors main page, Municipal Services, the recycle yard was number 4, and number 5 was tax information. So in designing, the new website, what will be prominently displayed on the homepage, this kind of information is helpful with that. And also to look at quickly, this is the top search queries on Google that shows us what keywords people are using to find the LMT site. So that's interesting to look at too from an SEO perspective. I'll just read the top 5 in case people can't see them, but 1 is Lower Makefield Township, 2 is LMT Pool, 3 is Lower Makefield Pool, 4 is Camp LMT, and 5 is LMT Pool Hours. So we wanted to make sure with this new website that there was more staff training and ongoing support so that the staff themselves would be able to, do the updating and through this much more user-friendly CMS. We talked about making recommendations for some improved processes and workflows, including appointing appropriate staff members to, update certain sections of the site, establish repeatable processes for updates. The recent implementation and integration of some of the third-party form systems that we have is already in place. That was something that we've talked about for a long time. So that's great, and that will streamline those work process through Community Pass for Parks and Rec and OpenGov. And then we wanted to recommend that there were more frequent and thorough updates of important community issues. The website should be considered a consistent and reliable go-to source of official township information. And there seems to be this kind of foggy perception people have of it that, you know, is the homepage updated? It looks like it's updated, but then when I go to look at what's there, it's all the information seems kind of old, but Parks and Recs is updated a lot. And, you know, so it's kind of like an imbalance, like getting a little bit more of a balance with the hard news information. So we thought it would be a good idea to strategize to have kind of a public relations and community education campaign promoting the new website and the new capabilities. And then holding kind of official review sessions, maybe twice a year, to monitor the website's performance and suggest improvements.
No, I think the app, let's get right into the app.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get, yes. we can talk about that.
Okay.
It supports the website.
Yeah,
I mean, it's.
Yeah. So because we found such a cost-effective solution for the website, we thought, you know, we started talking about, well, why not establish a township app, you know, to go along with it as well. So we started researching companies and, you know, debated about, well, is it really necessary? Do we really need it? You know, that kind of thing. But, and we haven't voted to make a formal recommendation yet on whether to recommend an app or what company we support. But we just wanted to at least present the idea here, that let you know that we're talking about it and kind of trying to figure it out. But, you know, kind of posing the question, you know, why would we need a township app? And here's some, you know, statistics and reasons that we think it might make sense. It's very direct and easy access to information directly from the source. You get improved citizen engagement and satisfaction and communication. 90%, here's just some stats from a recent study by Hootsuite. 90% of North Americans have mobile phones, 74% use the mobile phones to search the internet. 87% of users spend their mobile time on apps. 54% of millennials spend 3+ hours on mobile apps daily, and 66% use mobile apps instead of mobile browsers. So it's the whole argument of getting the news, getting all the, you know, latest township information delivered right to your hand, instead of going out to look for it through your email or through a web browser or so forth. And these companies, both these companies that we're looking at, InfoGrove and Apex Mobile, have developed many municipal apps, and they're very, very similar companies. And we will be forwarding more information about this so you can see some examples for different townships and so forth that are similar to ours. And here's some mock-ups or examples from the company Apex Mobile. But some of the more popular features and modules that are available are, you know, well, of course, are push notifications, but there's direct access to the police and tip reporting, you know, Parks and Rec information, calendar, schedules for events, transit, parks and recreation, pool information, updates on road conditions and roadworks. That's a big one. Report a problem service. You know, you can hook up those third-party forms that we have through OpenGov and Community Pass through the app as well. So just kind of, again, direct links to all this information right there. And here's some pricing information for both of these companies. They both charge a one-time setup fee. That's less than $8,000. And then depending on what type of plan you choose, there's an annual fee involved. InfoGrove ranges from $2,100 to $8,300 annually. And then Apex Mobile charges an annual maintenance fee of $3,500 with a minimum contract of 2 years. So again, as we continue to explore these companies, we'll provide more information on them, but they both work very similarly in that the app is updated through a web-based content management system that integrates with your website, basically, to kind of serve up the information in a different way. And then, you know, has additional features. They each have about 40 different modules you can choose from depending on what the township's preferences, like what they want to feature on the app and make very accessible. So
Let's also be clear that the website is also responsive, so it's not like this is support from a kind of a companion to the website. Okay. I think with the mobile app, we're going to see more push notifications than you would typically see with the website. Okay. But our website would display on a mobile device also. This is Josh.
this is John.
Josh Waldorf, a longtime member of the Electronic Media Advisory Council, and I do want to thank Jill and Dave for all their hard work, really put all this together. So I hope you'll support it.
Any questions for us?
Any questions for
Yeah,
EMAC?
I have a quick question.
McCartney?
So we recently launched a Mr. Majewski and his team launched that zoning application permit. So this would be integrated seamless into that. Would that also be a function of the app or just the mobile or the desktop version or the web version?
It could be integrated into the app as well, just in the same way it is on the website now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the staff did have a chance to take a look at it, and they met with Catapult, and they all the questions were addressed.
So easily integrated into the new website, that link for the application for permits and everything.
Yep.
Yes.
That was all I had.
Yeah. Good question. I don't know.
Louis? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know if Dave has any comments that he wanted to add.
Mr. Kratz, are you there?
Well,
Yeah,
before Dave
I-
had the chance to speak, no offense meant Dave or
No,
Jill.
no.
Yeah. Jill, I just wanted to say thank you, not just for this, but for all you've done for the township and the various organizations that you support. I'm hopeful that, you can turn us into like Pennsbury girl basketball players with some cool thing to the website. But even like when you reached out to me and suggested that we could update the icons on the page so that people would know more about what was up there. It was a brilliant suggestion that I think made our page more usable as we transition to new improvements. So just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate that.
Did you want, before we continue, did you want the township manager to augment your presentation?
I just wondered if he had any questions or anything to add, any comments to add.
I understand.
No, thank you very much, Jill, and members of the board. Yeah, we did have an opportunity to meet with the committee and work through some of these integration issues, and then also followed up as was reported with Catapult. From a staff perspective, we support the recommendation of EMAC, and again, appreciate the work that the members of that committee have done in working through the evaluation process. Again, Jill, I very much appreciate the kind words that you said in the beginning. So thank you very much for your work, and thank you for the opportunity to continue to work with the committee and support the committee's work.
Fantastic. It is nice to see a committee seamlessly work with board members and with staff to come up with an idea and a concept that we can move forward with if the board decides to do so. And with that comment, I'll just keep on going. Any further? Mr. Grenier?
I'll keep it going. Thanks
Good.
for everything to this committee. I've been wanting you to come sit down with us for a long time, so I'm glad you're here because it's a long time coming. Like you said, we are what do we say, dog years to computer years these days are long. I kind of feel it myself, I think. I guess so I love what you're doing. That's everything. We want everything integrated. We want a nice user experience for our residents, right? No matter however they want to interact with the township, we want it to be a consistent, positive experience. And integrating the website and apps and other things are a great way to do that. The only concern I had with any of this is that we talked about what Mr. Marjuski started with OpenGov. I think last meeting we had a presentation on another site that I'm totally forgetting the name of that Mr. Kratzer was talking about. I know Park and Rec has some of the stuff that they do. And there's probably the police department has their own website that they work with. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So we want to make sure that all of that's organized and integrated so that, I hate using apps, I'll be honest with you, but I like having everything right there and I can just go through and do it. And that's because if it's not, I'm just going to say, forget about it. I'm going to use my email or something old school. I'll start writing stuff down. I'll write a letter. I don't know. So I just want to, that's the main thing, is to make sure that all these great ideas get integrated so that people actually take advantage of these great ideas and they can use it and it creates a great experience. So instead of, so they don't switch gears from going to our website or our app or whatever, and they just go complain on Facebook to a couple of Facebook pages that we all know and love, and just kind of forget about interacting with the township, because we want to focus people. That's why we started the township Facebook page and the Twitter and the LinkedIn and everything else, so that we could direct people to go there rather than to unofficial pages, so they could get the real story or the real information, whatever it is. We just want to keep that going. I think sounds like this is doing it. So I'm glad that you're working with staff to that effect.
That's a very, very smart point about how there are kind of a few different elements going on here. And we're making an attempt to kind of make them a little bit more cohesive. Jim's team and what they're doing with OpenGov, that was kind of something that was decided a while ago and was moved, already had moved forward. And the same with Community Pass. I know that Monica, we had a conversation when we all sat down at the table about these different elements and how should we best make them work together right now and in the future. And she, has her commitments with Community Pass, and that seems to be working fine. We can, maybe explore a very long-term strategy and getting everything on one particular platform, either through OpenGov or what's the other one, Civic Plus. And see how much that would cost and how much work that would be and if it would be worth it. So this was kind of the best solution for what's going on right now with all those different elements.
The one anecdote I'll give you is I know, I'm the father of two young girls who play sports now, and we have to sign up for, seems like 1 million apps for the school and then 1 million apps for sports just to get updates on practices.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm just like, I'm just going to look at my email for the listserv and ignore all these apps.
Yeah. I mean, the app you would, download through your phone, and you would, through the app, decide what push notifications you want to get. There wouldn't be any logging in, I don't think, unless you went to a form, you wanted to apply for a permit or something that would require the same login for that you use now through the website. And the same thing with Community Pass. If you tried to, buy a pool membership, it would
make perfect
be the
sense.
same. Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say, hopefully, Chief, you're involved in this as well, because we are concerned about security on multiple levels to make sure that the data is safe and secure. And if people are giving tips or whatever through the police department, that things are protected that way too. So I'm sure that's all considered. But
yeah, one of these companies actually specializes in the police apps. So we thought that was kind of interesting. We actually wanted to reach out to you and involve you in some of these discussions as well to see what you thought. So we'll be in touch with that.
Okay. Yeah, on the back end, it's also very secure too. Is my relationship with other townships, I need to access certain areas where we're posting videos, for instance. I only have access to those areas, so I can't go into other areas and make changes. So on the back end, it's also very secure.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, that Umbraco is developed with security in mind. It's not like WordPress where you have to buy a bunch of different plugins to apply for security. It's already built into the system. So that was kind of an interesting thing to know as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes, first I'll echo everyone's comments. We're so pleased you're here. Jill, Dave, Josh, you've been stalwarts of the EMAC for a long time, so we definitely appreciate it. All three of you were involved in the last redesign, was 2017.
So were you.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. So I have a whole bunch of sort of like plumbing tech questions. I hope you don't mind. The first one is around search. Now, the current site, the search function doesn't work all that well. Part of that's a function of the actual search function, and some of it is because over the years, some elements of township content are not on the lmt.org domain. They're stored somewhere else. And so those aren't picked up necessarily when people want to do a search, which, you know, we've got the vast majority of our users are, hey, I'm setting up for community pass so I can go to the pool or what have you. But we have other folks who are there because they're part of, you know, they're interested in land development or other stuff, and they want some of those details. And that search has been a function that needs to be looked at, hopefully fixed with the new CMS, which I'm assuming has very good built-in search functionality in it.
More I've experienced with other townships, yes.
Okay. And so, and then the 2,400, that includes the hosting? Okay, so that's, you know, that price is an excellent price, and there's not even worth talking about. So the search is one thing. When the site is morphed from the old CMS to the new CMS, some of the existing links have backlinks to other sites in the greater web. We're blessed in that because we're a government entity, we don't really have to worry about search engine optimization. However, there's some elements of our site that we're out there actively selling people to come to Lower Makefield to either live or locate their business. We need to make sure that those links don't lose, there's a term, link juice, right? For that those are out there. Those don't become dead links, right? Or 404s, that we build in redirects so that those are there. There may only be a few pages that need those kind of redirects, but they're the ones that are most important for selling the township. So that's one I want to think about. The question about sort of the different community pass, OpenGov. First off, OpenGov is fully mobile responsive. So however you do that, it responds just like our current website is mobile responsive. The larger issue, and this is the one we got to think about from a tech strategy perspective, is how many different usernames and logins, right? It's not necessarily wrong that we have OpenGov and Community Pass. It's not, or that we have 4 or 5 different systems. It's that we need one sort of solution for identity management. So when I come to the site, I have one login that has a federated login to all those other tools, and then allows me to have one login, not have to worry about it, right? So that I don't have to have a different password, right, for those things. And so as we think about that, and I realize that's entirely longer term, those are the kinds of things we need to think about to look at. And the last one on the mobile app, I'm not familiar with them, Brock. I've used so many different CMSs. I was like, okay, this is a headless one. Okay, we're ahead of the game. I'm not going to dig into details, but there may be a mobile app developer that can take the Embraco CMS and create an app out of it more elegantly and easier. The one thing I worry about is you have a separate mobile app. If you've got to set up different stuff for that mobile app, you've now doubled the sort of upkeep time. So whereas like on the website stuff, I'm like, go forth, conquer, what you're talking about is 100% right. Agree with you. The mobile app, think about that, because there may be a way to do this with less work, even if it costs a little more, or it doesn't matter. And then finally, the push messaging. One thing I found is, in large enterprises, the push messaging sits as an island. It's not integrated with email or SMS or other tools that enterprises use to communicate with people. That creates all kinds of hassles. We're not selling stuff here. We're just telling people what's happening. However, it's important to want to think about how to tie all those messages together. But other than that, I'm super excited by what I saw, and I'm glad to see you guys were working hard, and that you had a chance to meet with township officials and that you came together with a similar recommendation. I think is a huge win for the community. So from that, I'm ecstatic. And my questions are more technical in nature than anything.
Yeah, and Supervisor Lewis, and actually all members of the board, many of the issues you've touched on in terms of, whether it's ease of use from a user standpoint as it relates to various usernames and passwords and those kinds of things. Those are all items that we did, talk about. And, we'll continue to look at, how to minimize any discomfort associated with those sort of different systems and ways to sort of streamline those things. But all of those points are points that the committee, I know, is considering. The committee discussed and was really sort of central to the initial discussion that we had from a staff perspective with the committee.
Mr. McCartney?
That was the only question I had was regarding the integration zoning.
Ms. Blondie, do you have any other comments, questions? Okay. So the question I have at this point, and it's parliamentary. We did earmark funds for the website development. We did not for an app, unless we consider the two the same. Can we make a motion accepting this recommendation at this time, or where do we go from here?
Well, again, at this point, the recommendation is only relates to the website.
Right.
There was $50,000 that was allocated in the 2023 adopted budget for website. So, again, obviously we're well below that, and I mean, the label of a website it's a label. I don't know that it has any bearing on the allocation to purpose. I mean, the app relates to the website, but perhaps Solicitor Truelove has a different opinion.
No, I agree with that. I think the term website can be almost viewed generically anymore because it does encompass so much. So I think that's probably, I would agree. If it gets challenged, I'm sure we can defend it. Let's put it that way.
So
now, you're not looking for the app tonight, are you?
Yeah, I think we will come back and make or later submit a specific recommendation about the app. We were really here to get approval for the website recommendation to get that project started.
what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
since it's two separate, kind of two separate things.
Yeah,
Get board consensus, official board consensus for you to do that.
I see.
That way you don't have to worry about what we want to do at the next step. We already got that covered. So when you come back saying this is what we recommend, then we can say sure.
Okay.
That's all. It's a housekeeping thing.
Yeah.
That's all. If that's all right with EMAC. And if it's all right with the board.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a motion that
Oh, John, I'm sorry. Because I'm just not sure what the wording on the agenda allows us to do. And I know there's a new rules in Pennsylvania.
Right. I think the biggest issue is notice. And I think there's enough here at least to say that there's notice that it's a presentation. Whether or not we have to specify that there has to be a specific amount of vote. I think we can, there's enough here at least to place it on in notice. And if we had to amend the agenda, we could there are mechanisms to do that. I don't think we have to. So to that extent, I think there's enough notice that people are aware that this was going to be a presentation tonight. And there was, I believe, money in the budget. It was part of the budget discussion last year too. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Dave, you're comfortable by the fact that it says presentation, not consider.
Right. I
mean,
we
consider spending. It doesn't have any of those words, but the presentation ties back to a previous budget item, and that's
that's essentially the way I would look at it. Yeah.
And more importantly, the dollar threshold is such that it's de minimis and below where we'd have to do RFPs. So I think
it is technically a service, but if for RFPs, if you want to go in that direction, you're correct. I mean, this is much lower than anything that we'd have to even normally consider for that. So what I would suggest you have a not to exceed number, and that way at least you have a little, if for some reason there's other costs that not that you wouldn't know about it, but that way you can at least include that as part of your motion, whatever, I don't know what numbers you're going to select, but it depends. Well, it depends on which one you recommend, I guess. So I'll have to wait for that. So anyway.
So maybe a way to get this moving quickly, Mr. Chair, is I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the Electronic Media Advisory Council's recommendation for a new website provider with a not to exceed amount of $5,000 That, and recognize that this is currently in the budget of 2023. And then once that's done, you'll have a better sense of what to come back for recommendation of the mobile provider. And then you don't necessarily have to come back for that, but a solution to that, and then we could vote on that separately.
Your motion would include the setup fee and the first annual fee. Is that what, I just want to make sure I understand how that's broken.
Oh,
down.
okay, so that would be, you need more money then, right?
Well, I think that's why I'm looking, just make sure we have some guidance from EMAC on that to make sure we're consistent about that. Because you'd have to have, because if depending on which provider you have, I think there's one contract, I think from what I understand, is 2 years with separate annual fees. I'm not sure how much. I haven't seen the agreement, so I'd have to,
Should have been included in the packet, the agreement, the proposal.
Not for the mobile app though.
Oh, no.
Again, I think
For the mobile.
right. So if the board is comfortable, I perhaps just authorize the proposal as it relates to Catapult, which is the website, and then we can. I mean, I appreciate the desire not to have to bring it back, but if I think what the committee was looking for was just general consensus as it relates to continuing to pursue the mobile app, but at this point, just focus on the website.
And Dave, what would be your recommendation on the not to exceed amount then, given that what we're talking about?
I think it's 20. I think the proposal for the website is $2,400 is my understanding. So
and then there's an annual fee after that too. So I want to make sure we have it. Do you need that or not? You need that, don't you?
Well, I don't. The website, Jill, was there an annual fee associated with that, or was it $2,400 and that was it?
It's 2,400.
Okay.
Right. So $2,400. The app was where it had a setup fee and then an annual. So.
If I might recommend I like the 5,000
Okay.
threshold, because just in case there's anything we need customized, or there's some other.
Or you need somebody for an hour or 2 hours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good.
All right.
Yeah.
So I have a motion, but I don't have a second.
No. So
Not can be your second.
the motion is to accept the recommendation of the committee to engage Catapult and to pursue the development or pursue a recommendation for an app.
And
Sure.
the Catapult agreement would be not to exceed
The
$5,000.
Catapult agreement not to exceed $5,000. That's our.
I think the separate direct, I don't even know if you need a motion for the direction on the app. You can, but at least I think we know there's a sense that they need to. We'll have that.
So right now, the standalone motion is for the app. I'm sorry, for the
website.
Catapult, for the
Website provider.
not to exceed $5,000.
I will second that if that's our official motion.
That's the motion,
All right.
and a motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Grenier to accept the recommendation of the EMAC for website development. Any discussion? Questions by the board? Any public comment? Anybody online? Since this is EMAC, we just have to ask. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have a 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Excuse me.
Speaker.
We'll go to item 8, engineers report. Mr. Flacco on the line.
Hi, this is Joshua Searman. I'm subbing in for Andy tonight.
Oh, I hear your voice, but I don't see your face.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hello,
There
nice
you
to
are.
see you all.
Go ahead.
Andy's better looking.
We have one item today. Considering the first pay application for the Woodside Bike Path project. Based on our review, we recommend payment in the amount of $28,714 to Pearson Construction.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve pay application number 1 for the Woodside Bike Path Project to Richard E. Pearson in the amount of $28,714 even.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis. Seconded by Supervisor Grenier to pay application number 1 for the Woodside Road Bike Path. Any discussion by the board? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Raise your hand. Abstain.
Aye.
401.
401. Thank you very much. Is there any questions, comments about further projects?
Yes, please.
Right there.
And I don't know if this is for Mr. Searman here or Public Works or maybe even Chief, but I believe that the Mapleville Phase 1 was supposed to get back underway sometime around the 13th earlier this week. Do we have any updates on the status of that work at Mapleville?
Derek, could you give us? Okay.
No, sorry about that. I do not know what the status is. Ben Cardino at RVE's direction was to remobilize this week on Monday the 13th. I do not know for sure if they did mobilize and start. I know they were scheduling to, but I couldn't tell you for certain if they did.
I heard through the grapevine / neighborhood that there were many trucks out there doing.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, a very good sign. I
Good
just
sign.
not sure how far along they are and what the remaining schedule.
Phones are out.
Yeah.
Trucks are there. I saw the heavy loaders back in. I passed that way 6 times a day for a certain reason. So, and there was even flagmen there. And they even look like they graded, and the intake for what road is that south of Mapleville? And
All the way down the road to
where the grate was.
McKinley.
McKinley. Yeah, I think on McKinley that there's some action there. And I noticed that the outlets into the wooded area, it looks like it's already done. And the manhole covers installed, or the manholes installed. So it looks like they've gotten a lot done.
Great. Yeah, it wasn't much work to be done, once they got the permit. So
I think they do need to do the final grading and paving.
final grading, paving weather permitted, as long as the weather holds off and warm.
It looks like they did what they said they.
Yeah.
and I'll keep you here for the
Sure.
phase 2 is coming up fairly soon too, right? With the stream cleaning and
Yes, I know Andy's working on he has a grant application, and not to speak for Josh, I don't know if he knows any updates on that, but I know they are waiting they have a grant application in for that for PA Small Waters, I believe. So he's waiting to hear back on that.
we don't know if we got the grant yet, but
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then I wasn't going to ask during the pay application side of things, but Woodside Road is obviously the bike path's underway, moving right along.
Yeah, I don't know percent complete, Josh. I don't know if you know they're percent complete, but I know they're chugging along pretty well. They had a few snafus with some fiber optics, but they got through them and moving along pretty well.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Josh. No worries.
Thank you.
I do have Andy's notes for Mapleville, which agree with what we've just discussed. He said that Ben Cardino was instructed to resume on 3/13, and they anticipate ending on 3/17, weather permitting.
Okay.
And then in Mapleville Part 2, we're still reviewing options to complete the work, and we have not received any notification about the grant that I can attest to, unfortunately. That's it from me.
Thanks, John. Any further comment?
No.
Okay, great. Item number 9, Parks and Rec. Standing.
Hello, everybody. How are you today?
Hello.
So today I'm here to recommend for approval to change the swim team or charge the swim team for use of the pool outside of normal operating hours. Historically, and that amount specifically is $6,000 for the season. That's based on hours that they use in the morning that no one else can use the pool, but we are staffing for them to be there. And we have communicated with the swim team. They are aware and they're agreeable to this rate. In addition to that, anytime that they exceed the hours outside, so in the event that they have a very long meet where we have to pull our staff in until say 11 o'clock, that we would charge $42 an hour. Last year, they were very good about staying under the amount that we had already agreed to after we expressed our concerns. So I really don't know how often we'd have to use that $42 an hour, but I do want to have an amount to use, so that we can adequately staff and be able to supplement those costs. Last night I brought this to the Board of Supervisors. Board of Supervisors unanimously approved, Park and Recreation Advisory Board. I'm sorry, you are the Board of Supervisors. And they unanimously approved charging this fee as well. So I'm hoping that I can gain your approval and we can move forward in this season.
What's the aggregate amount except for that with the meets? Is that the amount that's on that?
6,000. It comes just under 6,000. The swim team was agreeable.
5,985 or something?
Yeah.
I just did the math.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll make sure that everybody's aware of what that is. Right.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the proposed charges to the swim team for use of the pool outside of the pool's normal operating hours for an amount of $5,985.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Grenier to accept the fee. Any discussion by the board?
Does the 6,000 cover the operating expenses?
It covers the cost of staff. So.
But any other operating expenses?
Nope,
along
just
with
the
it?
cover.
Just the staff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
It
It would be hard to anticipate how much chemical, how much it costs. That would be hard for me to come up with a good figure for. And we do have to keep the chemicals in the pool. It's not like it's going to be significant. I think the staffing cost is the biggest hit. I do want to ask if the board does consider that $42 an hour also as part of the motion, if that would be okay to ask for.
Oh, if necessary, over and above $42 an hour for those other times that might be necessary.
Yes.
Right? If you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The motion as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Fine.
Sorry about that.
No,
That was my fault for not doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Quick question. How many folks participate in the swim team?
It could be anywhere from 150 to 300 people. It depends on the year. The reason why we decided a bulk hour, because our rate doesn't change based on the number of staff that we have to have will not change based on the number of people they have in the pool.
Okay.
To James's point about operating expenses, they're paying other fees just to be members of the pool. And then on top of that.
Sure. So everybody on the swim team does have to purchase a membership. So they do practice during open hours also. So I didn't include that as part of the package deal. They all buy a membership. So they have that access. They also have access for other amenities at the pool as members. This is something above and beyond that we do. And we've been just covering it until today.
We've talked to them and they're
not as dirty.
And you've gone over all this with them. There's been everyone's in agreement.
No, this is something we kind of been pondering for years now at this point.
The swim team knows.
The swim team is well aware. Megan Doherty and I have been in communication about it. We came to this. She understands where this number comes from and why the need. So I feel like we're in a good space with them. We'll probably be working on a formal agreement with them as we are starting to work with all the groups. So this would be something that we'd incorporate into that.
Any other comments about the board? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you very much. And just want to stick with my wording on the agenda. My second item is to consider authorization of the contract between the township and Seaward Johnson LTA to place sculptures within the parks for a proposed Art in the Parks program.
Sorry, I want to get that motion out there.
And I'll second it for you.
Thank you, John.
Without you going into any detail, the motion has been made to accept the contract and by Supervisor Blondie and seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any
But you can
discussion
keep
by-
going, Monica, because I'm so excited about this.
Any discussion by the board?
Obviously age appropriate art.
Yes, age appropriate, no,
I'd ask.
nothing racy, no.
Had to ask. Thank you. That was all I had.
Wow.
I had to ask.
I follow that
I'm
one.
not familiar with his work.
Before we
I wasn't expecting that question.
Curveballs.
before we continue, was there anything else, Monica, that you wanted to tell the board?
I just wanted to say we've kind of been working on this project closely with our insurer, their solicitor, our solicitor. It's been through quite a process before we brought it to you. That was really all I was going to add. I'd be
Of
glad
course, to
to,
help with Artists of Yardley, and hopefully
Yes.
this might be a multi-year endeavor.
hopefully. And I do want to make sure to mention Visit Bucks County as a funder for this. I mean, they're providing a majority of the funds to be able to have these sculptures. Sculptures are about $900,000 in worth that will be in the parks, which is really quite an amazing thing that we can do here.
And to back that up, they are being insured.
Yeah.
So-
Yes.
Well, and that was one of the issues. In fact, Mr. Kratzer and I had spoke with Monica about that earlier when we got the first contract. We had some concerns, but it was their standard contract, and they were very cooperative in working with us in meeting the specific concerns that we had. And there's no concern either way now. I think about that. It's really been hammered out well. I want to thank Savane, the new executive director of AOY, for being patient, but we had to do our due diligence. But it's I think we're all pretty confident it's as good as it's going to get, and will be a very worthwhile and interesting project. I don't know how it's in 3 or 4 parks or locations. 4.
The primary locations are the new Community Trail, Memorial Park, and Patterson.
That's the farm, right?
Mhm.
And it goes from June 1st to September 1st, I think, thereabouts, roughly.
Yes, about
Is
that,
correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments? Mr. Reddick?
Questions. I love the idea. I get another way to, not quite what James asked, but you just mentioned the locations. Do we have a list of what artwork will be there, or what type of artwork will actually be in each location?
Yes, in the contract, there is a list. We'll be providing more once we have the agreement, so it'll all be on the website, what we have. I believe, what is it, 8 or 9 sculptures?
It's 8.
Eight sculptures, and the focus and the theme is in the parks particularly is play. So play for all is a theme, and we focused on different types of recreation. So placing them strategically where we could focus on different types of recreation.
Will we have information about the artists and the artwork on the website?
We sure will. And the LTA will provide us a lot of content and information and marketing tools to help market. We're working jointly also on programming. Bet and I already scheduled a meeting for tomorrow to discuss our marketing campaign, what programs we're incorporating, both jointly through Artists of Yardley and through Park and Rec Department. So Artists of Yardley focusing on more of the visual arts, and we will be focusing on other types of art, performing and such.
And the ones at Patterson Farm specifically, where are those going to be, and how can folks that want to take advantage of the art, how can they access it, given?
Dan, you're taking away all her marketing. She's got this whole campaign plan about how she's going to roll it out and stuff.
So the Artists of Yardley will have it close to their location. It's one sculpture located at Patterson Farm. We recognize the sensitivity of the farm. We don't want people driving in and out. We recognize that the Artists of Yardley facility is used and people are in and out of that site. So we will likely have an event, no bigger than the normal events that are out there. So we will have something for the opening, and there'll be opportunity to see it right next to the Artists of Yardley.
So the cluster of buildings,
Yes.
everything is somewhere in there.
Yes. Yeah.
If you look at the contract, it's Exhibit A. They have the list of the 8.
Yep.
My eyes were.
Different sculptures, and I think you probably go on the website and just look those up and see what they look like.
Yeah, if you just
Sewer
even
Johnson.
put it in the Google, they will pop up too.
So Monica, I just want to thank you. I know I've been begging you sending you different pictures of public art for quite some time. I think this is wonderful. Some of the sculptures will look familiar to people who've been to the ground for sculptures.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this, and I know it took a big effort from you, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And we can't forget Bet here too. She's put in quite some time.
I can't see you, I believe it, Bet.
But she is here.
Ben, you're lucky I haven't been hounding you like I've been hounding Monica, so I know.
Yeah.
One last question for future action. This is different from what Yardley does with the Ducks, obviously, but they still do public art, but this is a little different, right?
Right.
I believe in Yardley, a lot of those ducks are sponsored in some way by local businesses.
Mhm.
Is there an opportunity in the future to defray some costs from the art that we pay as a township, that the artists of Yardley pay, or whoever else?
Sure. Bet and I actually explored that. We figured after 1 year of implementation, people would really be able to see what it is before we really went out there. We thought maybe, someone like McCaffrey's would want to have one in front of their building, or, we could work on a way to incorporate the businesses and actually have sculptures located close to those businesses as part of a partnership in the future. We are as taxpayer, well, you are as taxpayers paying $5,000. $5,000 is what we put towards it. A lot of the focus of the $5,000 will be more of the marketing and the programming piece. And Artists of Yardley is putting in $2,500 and then $17,000 it's $17,000 right now. Oh, it was a total. 7,500 from Visit Bucks County. See, good thing she was here to correct me.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, accepting the contract, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you so much.
Can we get Los Mariachis over from the Hamilton train station? A little too big to move, I think. Maybe.
Those do
They're going to be
move.
around that size or way small, way smaller?
They're around 9 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Bet's is 14 feet. It's a little bigger.
Thanks. Thank
They
you.
do move, James. That used to be a giant tooth where those mariachi people
Oh, you're
are
right.
from.
The mariachis have been there for a while, though.
Yeah,
Monica,
yeah.
Do you plan on staying or are you going to leave?
I can stay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to talk about grants.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, if that's all right with you.
Right now?
No, other business.
I know.
Item 10, Public Works, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you all. Good evening. Tonight, we have 3 items on the agenda. The first one is to ratify and confirm acceptance of the proposal from Ray Litwin's Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $10,200 to replace the heating unit at the Janney Brown House on Patterson Farms. That is the house and building that AOI occupies.
Mr. Chair, I move that we ratify and confirm acceptance of the proposal from Ray Litwin's Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $10,200 to replace the heating unit for the Janney Brown House on Patterson Farm.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Blondie to pay for a new heater and air conditioning system too. Cool. No, just heater.
Just here, but it's.
Oh, it's Ray Litwin's Heating and Air Conditioning amount to replace heating unit. I am sorry. Any discussion?
This is in the 2023 budget.
This was a like the filter. It just kept going until it stopped.
Yeah, this was an emergency repair. It was a 1974 unit.
Yeah, right now we got space heaters heating it.
Yeah, it was
not good.
No, I got you. I just want to see how we're.
Yeah, Dan, there was a general allocation for maintenance related to Patterson Farm. But again, this was something obviously that had to be done. So we were just bringing back the formal proposal for the board's, in for public ratification confirmation.
You have the money in the fund to pay for this?
Yes, yep, yeah, there's sufficient money in the
Just
powder
why-
stock.
I'll call it a general accounting question, which is what you're
Yeah,
at.
exactly. There you go. We think of like, okay. Any other comments, questions by the board? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval, signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Ayes have it 5-0.
Thank you. The second item I have for this evening is to authorize purchase of a 6-wheel dump truck, including upfitting at a cost of $235,306.95, and a 10-wheel dump truck, including upfitting at a cost of $266,973.81 for the use by the Public Works Department, and also to authorize the township manager to obtain financing proposals for the 6-wheel dump truck.
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize purchase of a 6-wheel dump truck, including upfitting for an amount of $235,306.95, and a 10-wheel dump truck, including upfitting in the amount of $266,973.81 for use by the Public Works Department, and that we authorize the township manager to obtain financing proposals for the 6-wheel dump truck.
There a second?
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion from the board? Any public comment? Oh, sure.
These obviously aren't cheap. Can you just give us a short version of where we're at with our current dump trucks replacement, et cetera, and how long you expect these ones to last?
These trucks are actually 2 that were budgeted for this year as replacements. The 2 that they're, and I use the term lightly, the 2 that they're currently scheduled to replace is a 2002 and also a 2003. I say currently scheduled because we may not get these in a year. Another truck could go beforehand, but we're anticipating we're getting about 10-year life cycle out of these trucks, give or take. These ones are a different manufacturer that offers a little bit different variety. It's actually a aluminum cab to help with the rot. I mean, that's the number one thing we face is the rotting of the cabs. So we're hoping to maybe get a little more life, but at least 10 years is kind of the current life cycle that we're seeing on these trucks.
Now, do these serve multiple uses? Like,
Yeah, so these trucks do not only salt and plow for us, they do pull the leaf trailers for leaf collection season, and any major storm event, they are brush trucks and things like that we can haul things, and paving applications, they haul the asphalt for us, stone, things like that.
We use them a lot.
They get a lot of use.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so just to provide some additional sort of context on sort of the financial side of things. Again, as Derek had indicated, both of these were anticipated purchases in the adopted 2023 budget. The figures, the quotes that were ultimately obtained are slightly higher than what was reflected in the adopted budget. But again, the idea was to purchase the 10-wheel dump truck outright using American Rescue Plan Act dollars. Again, that was something that was reflected in the adopted budget. And then to, as the second portion of that motion indicates, finance the 6-wheel dump truck. Despite there being these slight overages, and when I say slight, we're talking, let's see, the 10-wheel was contemplated to be 245. It's at roughly 267. And then the 6-wheel was contemplated to be 222. It's at 235. The other aspect that just to point out is when the new trucks come in, we'll dispose of the other 2 trucks as surplus equipment. So there will be some recovery of some of that overage through the sale of those vehicles. So just to provide some additional financial context.
Any other discussion by the board? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it 5-0.
Thank you. The final thing I have this evening is to consider authorizing the advertisement of surplus, damaged, and or inoperable equipment for sale via municipal bid.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor McCartney, seconded by Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion? And including in this is the old truck and the old trucks and things like that.
A lot of housekeeping was done over these past few months.
Cool.
Trying to get rid of stuff.
Mr. Grenier?
No, it sounds that you were going where I was going to ask. It sounds like it's more than just the trucks. There may be other items to sell, whether it's for reuse or scrap or whatever it is, but any guesstimate on what the return might be on that?
It depends on what someone else's, right? One person's trash is another man's oasis. There's estimated values for everything. A lot of the stuff is
you want me-
scrap value. Yeah, go ahead.
Derek, do you want to quickly kind of go through the, I mean, again, there's a bunch of stuff here, whatever the board's pleasure is, but there was an attachment that itemized it, and then there was associated values or estimated values associated with what
And pictures.
and photographs as well. Yes.
I mean, if you add all that stuff up, the short answer is, again, it far-fetched, but $40,000 possibly, 40,000 plus. But again, that's on a great day. Out of the list of all this equipment, one is of value was a pump that was kept by the sewer department sale. That is the only piece that's actually running, operable, that serves a purpose to anyone else. Everything else is, like I said, of scrap value, or if someone's looking for parts and pieces, that'd be the best bet for them.
I have a question for Mr. Kratzer. What happens to that, say it's $25,000 or $40,000 from an accounting standpoint?
I mean, we can. I mean, there's a couple different things we can do. I mean, we can use it to offset some general expense, or we can just recognize it as general revenue in the Public Works Department. I think the intention is, I mean, in terms of placement, we'd be placing it in the general fund account or the general operating account. In terms of how we account for it from an accounting systems perspective, I didn't really give too much thought to that at this point, Supervisor.
But just it comes in as general revenue then, correct?
It would be just general revenue, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Derek, I just want to thank you and your team for undertaking this. It may not be valuable, who knows, but it's important stuff, and I'm glad you're getting it off our property. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Luckily, winter's been good to us. We've been doing a lot of general housekeeping that was well needed. So winter's been slow, so this is something needed to be done. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks. Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dad.
We'll go to item 11, managers
But it doesn't run.
No.
report. Mr. Kratzer.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, the first item for your consideration is consider canceling the April 5th, 2023 regularly scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting. April 5th is the beginning of Passover, and so we're recommending the cancellation of that meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move that we cancel the April 5th, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor McCartney to cancel the April, I just lost my April 5th, 2023 meeting. Any discussion?
Just a question, is there to whoever, probably you, Mr. Kratzer, is there any items? That means our next meeting would be April 19th. Are there any items that we have to consider before the 19th where we would have to schedule a separate meeting? Or are we just?
We do not contemplate that, Supervisor Grenier. To the extent something's been a deadline or something of that nature, we've communicated to folks. There's nothing from a land development standpoint that needs to be acted upon. We've sort of anticipated the cancellation of the meeting and have made sort of arrangements with folks regarding those deadlines.
I mean, that week is tough because, it's also Easter week, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah, so, but
fine with it.
if an emergency came up, we could do it the next week if we
That's
had.
what I was asking.
Yeah, we could get that.
Just for an example, what Mr. Kratz was talking about, under 14 community development, there's an extension of time for 1101 Big O. So that's to May 15th. So if you take a look at that, that's one of the items that's been moved. It wasn't just for this meeting, it was because also the attorney wasn't available, but we told him that we were going to have a meeting on the 5th in all likelihood. So we anticipate that'll be on the agenda for the 19th. Tim.
Any other discussion by the board? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of canceling the April 5th meeting, you say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, sir.
And then the next item is a payment request for contract SWR 20-4D related to the Stackhouse pump station upgrade that was again undertaken prior to the sale of the sanitary sewer system. It was one of the remaining obligations. The amount of the payment request is $48,419.27. And Ebert Engineer, as the consulting engineer for the sanitary system, has reviewed the work and the payment application is recommending approval.
So
I hear a
moved.
motion. Second.
Second.
I hear a motion made by Supervisor Blondie, seconded by Supervisor McCartney to approve the payment request. Any discussion?
This one, if I recall, was primarily paid for by a state grant, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was a big
grant. Yeah.
big grant. $420-some thousand.
Yeah, no, thank you, Perry Warren.
This is exactly right. Is this the last payment or is there another one?
There's a balance to finish plus retainage of $41,042.19 on this project. I also did submit or send an email to Ebert Engineering just to sort of get a general accounting of sort of these remaining items that relate again to capital projects that were commenced prior to the sale of the system. They've not gotten back to me yet at this point, but I'll follow up with them and I'll provide that information to the board in the
I
future.
understand. Thank you, sir. Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor of payment request number 5, signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it 5-0. 12, solicitors report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Executive session was held tonight beginning at 6:30, concluded at 7 p.m. All supervisors were present for all or part of the executive session, along with Mr. Kratzer, Chief Galuzzi, and myself. And items related to litigation, real estate, and informational items were discussed at the executive session. Next, on the zoning hearing board, there are 4 items for everybody's benefit. I will not read the second one verbatim, but let me talk about the first one. First one is Appeal 23-1998, Lynette and Jim Chevelle. Appeal for property located at 1554 Surrey Court, tax parcel 20-028-106. The request of variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-69 capital A 14 small c in order to install a fence in the sanitary sewer easement. Because Mr. Chevelle is the brother of one of my law partners, I cannot make a recommendation. I would note that a fence in the sanitary sewer easement is a common matter that's considered by the zoning hearing board. If the board wants to do something with it tonight, I can't make a recommendation. So,
With the consent of the board, I would ask that the board defers this to the zoning hearing board.
I agree.
thank you. The second one, and this, I know Mr. Flax is here to maybe make some comments. I want to make sure he's aware that we're going to talk about this now. So I want to make sure, give you the heads up on that. A little background before I read it. Selco Partnership, which does business as Verizon Wireless, originally made an application several months ago at the Brookside swimming pool location when there was, some opposition noted for a variety of reasons. They agreed to withdraw their application and determine another location, which they have with this application, which is, and I'll read where the location is, but it is the Bethel Synagogue. So Selco Partnership, it's appeal number 23-1999, doing business as Verizon Wireless, with a property located at 375 Stony Hill Road, tax parcels 20-034-008. Excuse me. The applicant are requesting a variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-28 to allow for a proposed telecommunications facility within the R-3M zoning district. The facility will consist of a monopole antenna support structure designed to resemble a pine tree, 150 feet in height, and the attachment of up to 12 panel antennas, 4 per sector, at the top of the monopine monopine. I guess it is a monopine. Be located within a 50 by 50-foot fenced compound. A lightning rod and artificial branches to conceal the structure shall extend to an overall height of 155 feet. And then there's a lot of verbiage after this. I will not read it, but I will explain. There are two alternate, validity variances also pursued. And they address what may be implicated if there's a requirement to consider the Federal Telecommunications Act. In summary form, in many ways, the township's zoning considerations are preempted by federal law. There's some limitations on that, and they are asking for validity variance. Short run here is if there's certain conditions they show they meet, it's going to be very hard in many ways for the zoning hearing board to find against them for some of these things. I'm not going to say all, but there are some significant issues that, and this is not just this location. Every time there's an application made that the Federal Telecommunications Act does apply. So with all that said, it's our general recommendation to defer, but obviously we want to have, there's a discussion, consideration. We will certainly entertain that. And so I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion. If not, Mr. Flax, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but do you want to say anything about this now or not? Mr. Flax is a longtime resident of the township, so I just want to make sure that.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the job you do. You guys are doing a great job. Really do appreciate it. Been a resident since 1987. Where I live is the dead zone. You can't get a phone call. You can't make a phone call. You don't get any internet service through your cell phone. Once they went to LTE, it even got worse. Fall and winter are a little bit better, but once the trees grow, the signal dies. So from anywhere from Big Oak and Stony Hill down that whole quadrant there, you can't make a call or receive one. You have to stand there with your hand outside and leg up in the air and that sort of thing. So that's a problem. But more so, I think it's a safety issue as well. I install alarm systems. As most of you know today, you can put things on and off from your phone. You have applications, that sort of thing. People are getting away from landlines. They can't use the cell service because there is no cell service. So we have to kind of back it up with Wi-Fi, which then leaves a hole. If the Wi-Fi goes down, you have nothing. We have some people in the area that have commercial fire systems that are required to have two phone lines, regular old-fashioned phone lines, or as close as they can be. They can't get rid of them because we can't put a cell radio in. So I think it's a definite benefit for the community, for life, safety, and just the overall being of the community. That's
Mr. Flax, if I could add that your comments are appreciated. I will also say that your comments would be appropriate also for appearance before the zoning hearing board if the coverage issue would certainly be, I'm sure, discussed there. So whenever this is scheduled for the zoning hearing board, and I forget when this is scheduled, it's certainly before our next meeting, but I'd have to. If you check the website, as we discussed earlier, probably will have this listed as one of the date for the appeal. So, all right.
Sounds good. I'll definitely be there.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thanks again for the good job you guys are doing.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the solicitor, if you don't mind. Just measuring on the map, the closest zone I think that we have in our zoning that would allow for no variances is almost exactly a mile away as the crow flies. Do we get anything from the cell company that said, I used to work on these things years ago.
Yep.
So that, do we get anything from the cell company that says, this is.
They need it here instead of over there. The other
Right,
one
so
place doesn't work.
Prove their point, because,
That's my
a hardship.
understanding. And obviously they'll have to make that point at the hearing. But my understanding is, yes, they've done those studies because otherwise, in fact, as you know, Brookside is in another location. So this is apparently to capture it. I mean, I don't know if it addresses specifically your area, Mr. Flax, but it certainly, they've done the study. As I understand it, again, we'll have to, that's for engineers to discuss it and explain. But it was not done without that being considered. That's my understanding. But again,
I'm not on the zoning hearing board, obviously, but that's what I'd like to personally, I'd like to participate, not necessarily defer, not necessarily oppose, but participate, if only to make sure that type of information is provided. I know, and you probably know more about this from years ago, that other cell towers were proposed and were successfully opposed under the same laws.
Yep.
Now, at the same, I understand Mr. Flax's comments about dead zones and safety and all that. We just want to make sure that, you're only a couple 100 feet from homes here. Not everyone likes seeing the fake pine tree in their backyard. We all know how that goes. And I've had residents who will be very close to there. I think Cinnabar, at the end of Cinnabar, there's a gate where you can get back in. Sorry, you can get back into that area. So I know it's very close. So we just want to make sure that their concerns are brought in, considered, and that, there's homes pretty close on the other side of the building too. So my main concern is that the residents are okay with it, while still getting good service, and that there's a balance so that we can make sure that we can hold them accountable and they're not just forcing us to do something. That, and we just did I don't know if ironic's the right word, but we just did the 5G ordinance because 5G is supposed to take control of take over from cell towers, and here we are building a new cell tower instead of putting in 5G. So their arguments are a little tough sometimes. But anyway, so my preference would, I'll make a motion just to make it. I'll make a motion to participate on zoning hearing item 1999, sorry.
There's a motion made to participate in appeal 23-1999. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay, moving on then to the final two under that agenda item. Appeal 23-2000, Robin Susan Whitlock. Appeal for the property located at 1377 Revere Road, tax parcel 20-058-208. They request a variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-23 in order to install a stamped concrete patio, which would increase the impervious surface from the existing 21.1% to 23.5%, where 18% is the allowable amount. I believe in their application, as they are required to do, they do indicate that they will take some stormwater mitigation measures. So we would recommend deferral unless there's another sentiment. Hearing none, the final matter, appeal 23-2001, Ray Worth. Appeals for the property located at 290 Elbow Lane, tax parcel 20-075-019. He requested variance for the from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-23 in order to construct a 282 square foot rear addition and a 213 square foot rear deck with a roof, which would increase the impervious surface from the existing 22.8% to 25.4%, where 18% is the allowable amount. And again, I believe Mr. Worth has provided some stormwater mitigation measures as well. We recommend deferral unless there's another sentiment. Hearing none, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 14, community development, Mr. Majewski.
Good evening. I have two matters for the Board of Supervisors. The first one is consider authorization for advertisement of the Regency Pedestrian Trail Project. You may recall that we engaged an engineer to do the final design plans based on the concept done by Safe Highway Engineering sometime last year. We now have the final plans, specifications, and estimate for the project and are ready to go out to bid should the Board of Supervisors authorize that to move forward.
Do I hear a motion to authorize that?
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize the advertisement of the Regency Pedestrian Trail Project.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor McCartney to authorize the advertisement of the Regency Pedestrian Trail Project. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Majewski, just to reiterate, the funds for this project were being escrowed by toll at time of development, correct?
Yeah, each of the homeowners in that development paid $1,650 per unit that was supposed to go to either a bridge to be widened over I-295 on Big Oak Road, or if that was not feasible, to go ahead and use it somewhere in the area of the vicinity of the Regency project to benefit the community as a whole.
And that was the residents of both phase 1, south and north, right? Both.
Correct.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Question. Most of these improvements are ones that say presented along the roadway with the traffic calming and whatnot. Been some discussion in some of the advisory boards recently about Old Oxford Valley Road, what we may end up doing with that. Does this include improvements to Old Oxford Valley Road? Or
Yes, it does. And when we actually go out to bid, and I forgot to mention this, is that I'm going to have a few alternate bids as part of it so that we can make sure that it'll fit within the allotted amount that we currently have in our budget. I believe we have funds in the amount of around $685,000. We should be able to get this project done within that budget amount, but I did break out a few things on that. And it'll include the area going down Old Oxford Valley Road that we'll be vacating.
we need, I just want to check in terms of the motion, do we need to include the concept of alternate bids, or is the motion generic enough?
I believe the motion is generic enough as it is posed because it gives that flexibility. Yeah.
And that's something we typically do just to make sure we can.
Fully in favor of alternate bids.
Right. Yeah.
I got you.
Any other comments, Mr. Lewis?
So very familiar with the traffic calming enhancements. This would be from south of Big Oak that essentially would be paving that area and creating a pathway. What is pathway north of Big Oak? Behind the CVS? Is there anything? There's no pathway there then, right? There's no additional path there.
No, this sidewalk would connect to the sidewalk that was constructed for the thing was formerly Lower Bucks Pediatrics, and also you had the Lightbridge Academy Daycare, and then a third building that is to be determined, and then it will go and turn and go up the old right-of-way of Old Oxford Valley Road and tie back into the area around Regency.
Right, but on the other side of that, so from the new Regency area, there's nothing that, there's only the traffic improvements then, right? And it just ties into existing sidewalks that are in there, right? There's nothing else? 'Cause it seems like a lot of money for the path. I mean, just, maybe I'm off.
It's also lane restrictions of the road.
Yeah,
Sign.
Yeah, they'll be doing a crossing at Fern and Locust. As part of that, they'll be putting channelized islands in to
yeah.
provide
now I can see
pedestrian
where
refuges and then the
that starts to
sidewalks.
get, yeah, I guess I'm getting,
And I believe the estimate is conservative. However, with the prices we've seen over the last couple of years, conservative maybe doesn't mean anything. And that's why we have to go ahead and take a look at this to make sure we can get it all done.
see what we got. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So
Any other questions, comments? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor to advertise, signify by saying aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Ayes have it 5-0.
Okay, the next item is consider extension of time for 1101 Big Oak Road subdivision to May 15th, 2023. This originally was supposed to be scheduled for this evening, I believe, but there was a conflict with Developers Council, so they requested that it be moved to a future agenda. And working with our solicitor, we came up with May 15th so that it could be on the meeting in April or first meeting in May.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Supervisor McCartney, seconded by Supervisor Lundy to extend the time for 1101 Big Oak Road subdivision to May 15th, 2023. Further discussion or comments?
is May 15th enough? I mean, I'd be happy to give them longer if they want longer.
Mr. Murphy indicated it'd be enough, but it's a good point. I'd asked him that, and we're hoping to get that on, like Jim said, either the 19th or May 3rd, because they were ready for tonight. So it should be,
They were looking for preliminary and final all in one fell swoop.
I believe that's correct.
That's correct.
I'll say
And this actually may work out well with, I know there were concerns with evaluating trees with the time of year. And if we make it May 3rd, that may work out well for everything.
I'll say that relative to evaluating trees, there are some pretty fundamental major comments on the arborist report that's been written to date. They're essentially saying it, I'll be honest, it's a laughable report. So there's some pretty strong comments by folks that know their stuff about that report, and they're asking that it be reevaluated to be more realistic. So we
You mean the developers arborist report?
the developers arborist report. It was pretty bad. So the EAC and others that are
I think this will give
us some time. So
if we do it by May, or was it April 15th?
April 19th or May 3rd. So we have
Either
at
May
least 2
3rd,
meetings
that'll give planning and EAC another bite of the apple. We'll look at this if there's any.
It's already been through planning, so it wouldn't go back there.
So they have already approved the plan?
They recommend approval subject to a number of conditions.
So EAC can look at it again if they want.
Right. And May 3rd actually would be more preferable, just to give a better opportunity to work through the remaining issues on the arborist.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So when they come before us, it's possible they will have resolved some of the issues around their techniques of avoiding the tree ordinance.
I would hope so.
Okay, that would be,
Even if not, we could force the issue as well as a board.
I would, yes, and I believe counsel for that developer has an appreciation of where some of us stand, and we certainly have an appreciation of his
I don't
unique.
think that's going to be a
perspective.
big reach.
No question that I think everybody knows where everybody's opinions are.
Yeah, so I'm confident that it'll be resolved one way or other by.
Well, hopefully in discussions with the developer, you can remind him of our thoughts on that issue and concerns.
I'll just bring up Judge Finley's name.
Yeah.
Any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of extension, signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you.
Just one more item. I know you had mentioned the hearing date for the cell tower. I believe it was originally scheduled to be March 21st, but I believe their council had a conflict. So that meeting will be continued to April 4th. That's the Tuesday, April 4th will be that meeting for anyone who's interested.
Where Passover starts, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's okay.
Would they cancel their?
Not for
Not
that
for
night.
that
Not
before,
for
okay.
that night before.
So what sundown on the 5th is one.
Correct. Sundown on the 5th.
Especially considering where it's going, I think they'll have some feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor reports. I have one. Park and Rec Road Show. August the 8th, 5 p.m. We're using a bus, air-conditioned bus, plenty of snacks, drinks. All those who are invited, I hope you can make it. And that's all I have. Ms. Blondie.
Yeah, I just would like to encourage everybody to make sure they're doing their best to follow along on the ad hoc property committee. I could never really summarize all that's been going on. Unless I wanted to take over the rest of the meeting. But this is a committee that's really, being fueled by a committee being fueled by the community. And you'll find all their minutes and on the website. You can find the links to the videos on YouTube. Public engagement is built into the process to make sure we're getting people's idea for the buildings and the pieces of the land that the township owns. So I would encourage everybody to spend some time with YouTube and catch up on it all, and look for future opportunities to be involved in surveys or engagement by joining meetings, but also by other specific tasks that are going to be built in over the next few months to make sure that we're getting feedback that wants to be given. So hope that makes sense.
Well, as one who has been liaison to that committee for 2 years, since its inception, I will make one comment that on this subject of Patterson Farm, if any member of the community wants to understand what really, truly is going to happen or is happening currently, social media, unofficial sites is not where to get the information. These meetings are public. Public participation is welcome and invited. It's on YouTube, Facebook, and cable. You can revisit meetings at any time. The records, the minutes of these meetings are certified by our corresponding secretary of the township. And there's a plethora of members of the committee, stakeholders, and of course, members of the board who are always willing and able to assist in any comments or questions by the community. So thank you, Ms. Bundy, for that statement that you made. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That committee's doing great work.
They are. Mr. Lewis.
I have no report.
Mr. McCartney.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Mr. Grenier.
One thing.
Okay.
EAC, we already talked about their review of that one project. Also wanted to say thank you to the EAC for their guidance on the Mirror Lake Road tree plantings. For those that haven't seen it, if you go down Mirror Lake Road, you'll see, I forget the number of them, but the several sugar maples that were planted, they look great, great feedback.
Are they sugar maples or super maples?
I believe.
Sorry.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You've used a word tonight twice that I love, so I will say there are a plethora of sugar maples. The other thing for folks to check out, recently put up on the township website, is the LMT EAC's 2023 recycling guide, where it gives you guidance on where to recycle various items, alternatives for various household items that you might not always think about across the county. So please go to lmt.org and check out the EAC website. It's there in big bold letters with a little recycling sign, so you can check out your 2023 recycle guide. Nice work to the EAC.
Yep. Thank you. Item 16, other business. Ms. Tierney, could you come up to the table? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but information was given to me yesterday. It's a little disheartening, but life is what life is. Could you just give an update as far as the grant for Veterans Square and the Memorial Park EDA improvements and other improvements to those parks?
Sure. Well, we did not receive the grant. It seems as though there was more focus on environmental projects, and our project necessarily didn't get as many points as some of the other projects. So we did not get that grant. The grant was a match grant, $219,980 from DCNR, and 219,982 from the township. I believe we had a little additional money that we could have spent on this project too, but not quite enough to cover it. So I just wanted, I guess, by surprise right now, tell you that we did not get that grant. I believe there's other opportunities coming in the near future. We could potentially start some of this project and phase it in. Particularly, maybe we could start at Memorial Park and then continue to work on some of those other veterans, completing out Veterans Square, which was part of that project. But that would be up to the board to decide.
So as a discussion item, I think these two projects are very important to the township. And I think it would be a disservice to the community if we delayed it significantly, these projects. So I hope to put in the next meeting's agenda that we, instead of getting a grant, we can always pursue future grants.
Mm-hmm.
That we use bond fund money. We have a significant amount of bond fund money that's earmarked for projects if possible. We're only talking $220,000 or so. We have I think well over $9 million in the bond fund that's unearmarked for anything. So between now and the next meeting, I would like the board members to think about that. And if we get there, we can use bond fund money to pay for the whole project as well. I mean, that part of the project that's not a match, and we can continue on with, forward the project. So I just bring it up, and I thank you for your candor.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
staying with
Thank
us
you.
late.
You got it.
Thank you.
Real brief. I'm very familiar with the Memorial Park, not Memorial Park, the Veterans Square ADA stuff. What's covered under this particular portion for Memorial Park?
It would be the full completion. So the shade structure, the playground, the path. I believe there was some sort of small meadow or some water retention space and the paving of the parking lot.
Like, yeah.
It's a discussion item. We'll figure that out between now and the next meeting. Thank you.
No problem.
Item 17, appointments to boards and commissions.
Uh,
No, the
I'm
reappointment.
happy to make the motions if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Bundy.
And if everyone's okay, I'm just gonna do it all as one. So I make motion to reappoint the following volunteers to the following committees. Please forgive me in advance for any mispronunciation, not my strong point. So to emergency management, James Frawley, Jeffrey Gust, and Robert Mills. To golf, Joseph Daddario. And to park and rec, Michael Brody. Sorry, Michael Brody.
Who? Who? No, we all know. We all know Brody.
I didn't realize he had a first name.
It's not Brody.
It's not Brody.
Are you sure we can't like segregate out?
We could just Brody.
Yeah.
Brody.
AKA Brody.
I second the motion.
Motion made by Supervisor Blunty, seconded by Supervisor Lewis to reappoint those individuals to the respective boards or committees. Any comments? Any other jokes?
For wanting reappointments.
It's okay. Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it 5-0. Public comment, any general public comment? Any public comment online? Hearing nothing? Hearing that, and there being no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good evening. Thank you.